Welcome to the MAPS Canada webinar series. My name is Shannon Smedella, and I'm your host for the series. We are extremely excited to have you join us for our 9th episode of our webinar series. Since the beginning of June and continuing through to the end of August, we've had and will have an amazing selection of speakers, luminaries, scientists, doctors, and visionaries lined up just for you. We've gathered some of the best in the field, 5 additional speakers to be exact, to share important information and their take on the psychedelic renaissance. We are in the middle of a psychedelic renaissance, with research projects and decriminalization proposals popping up across North America, and with MDMA on the verge of approval as treatment for PTSD, psychedelic therapy is on track to become the next major breakthrough in mental health care. MAPS Canada, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, has supported studies to develop psychedelics into safe and legal medical treatments since its formation in 2008. Currently, MAPS Canada is funding 2 separate studies on MDMA and cognitive processing therapy as a treatment for PTSD. Additionally, plans to fund studies that identify psychedelic treatments for eating disorders and others that involve ibogaine are in the works. To conduct and publish scientific research and education supporting the beneficial use of psychedelic medicines, MAPS Canada relies on public donations and fundraising initiatives. The funds raised from this webinar series will go to fund this research. For more information on MAPS Canada, please see the website at mapscanada.org. So today we are very excited to have Chris Dyer with us. We're going to be having a talk from our guest visionary artist, Chris Dyer. And after that, we will have a question and answer session. So just a few reminders. If you look to the bottom of the screen, we have the Ask a Question tab there. Please ask your questions in there. And you can also vote up the questions. So we will be prioritizing those questions. If you'd like to place any comments in the chat, it's just on the side here. And maybe give us a shout out and let us know where you're tuning in from. So we have some people here from Calgary, Vancouver, Santa Cruz, Brampton, Hollywood. We have Robin from Calgary. Who else do we have? Italy, Brazil. So give us a shout out. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And any comments you can also put in the chat there as well. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Chris Dyer. Chris Dyer is a Peruvian-Canadian artist based in Montreal who exhibits, performs, and teaches his art worldwide. Some of his broader artistic themes include consciousness, truth, oneness, introspection, personal development, and kindness. He paints using acrylic, pencil, pens, spray, paint, gouache, and other media on a variety of different forms, including broken or blank skateboards. In his early years, various sculptured and recycled items, and now commonly fabric or wood canvas. He's also known for his murals, logos, album covers, posters, illustrations, comic books, travel diaries, the Sunlight Chronicles, and YouTube adventures, Artventures. He was the art director and brand manager of Creation Skateboards, Satori Movement for 3.5 years, creating designs for hundreds of skateboard decks. He teaches many art workshops and classes on technique, spray painting, traditional medicinal healing, and the business of art, as well as offering an online class. He has created his own brand of conscious clothing and other goods, Positive Creations, which features some of his most well-loved art. Through his styles, mediums, and subject matters are always in flow, the main theme seen through his artwork is cultural and spiritual oneness of humanity and beyond. So today, Chris will go through his personal history with using psychedelics, along the things he has learned and healed with them. Also explain the art he has expressed through those intense experiences. So get ready for some trippy visuals, deep reflections, and funny stories too. So please help me welcome Chris Dyer.
Woo!
Thanks for being with us here, Chris. It's great to have you on the webinar.
Thank you, Shannon. I'm stoked to be included in this lovely situation.
Wonderful. So I'm going to turn it over to you. And after that, we'll get into a Q&A. So the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Shannon. Blessings.
Mm.
All right. How are you guys all doing out there in the planet Earth? Welcome to my office. My name is Chris Dyer. And when you bought this seminar and you're trying to explain it to your buddy who's maybe not so psychedelic as you're all like, yeah, man, I just bought this seminar from Maps Canada. And it's got all these like super scientific researchers that are going to teach me about all this like data about how psychedelics are here to like heal the planet. And your friends all like, what? Psychedelic research? This sounds like a bunch of dreadheads doing drugs to me. And you're like, no, man, it's actually like all these like really serious, well-respected scientists who've like done a ton of scientific data and have these really complicated words to explain this whole situation. It's like, I don't believe you, man. It sounds to me like it's a bunch of dreadlock hippie kids doing drugs to me. And it's like, no, man, for real. If you want, I can show you one of them. So don't show on this one. Don't show on this one. This is not the one you want to show your friend to prove to them this is a very scientific situation. This is an artist. This is who I am, a dreadlock hippie who has done experiences in his life, and whatever I got to share with you is purely anecdotal. And we're doing this for MAPS, and MAPS is this really serious institution that wants to bring the healing of psychedelics into the world, which is such a blessing, which has helped me so much. But in my personal experience, not all psychedelics have been medicine to me. Some are medicine, some are poison. I'm not here with an agenda to say yes or no to anything. I can only share my personal experiences. Before I start my speech, I want to conjure up the powers that I have in my technological wisdom, aka Michael, to start a poll. And I want you guys to answer at any point you want, which has been the psychedelic that has healed you the most, and which is the psychedelic who might have actually done the opposite, because we're all different and we all got different experiences and different settings. So, I'm just curious, and we can read this later in the magical poll that will appear somewhere here in 2 seconds. But anyways, I'm going to start with my slideshow speech, because if I just do my face all day throughout this whole speech, you're going to get some nightmares. And I value your mental health too much for that. So, dun 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 dun. Positive Creations by Chris Dyer. That's the name of my brand. That's the name of what I do, my intentions, my book, my movie. I all call it Positive Creations because what I'm up to. And these are some of my skateboard graphics that I've done. They're kind of trippy. They're kind of psychedelic. Let me take you through a ride through my own personal usage of psychedelics throughout the years. It all started in 1992. Actually, let me start by telling you that I grew up in Lima, Peru. I'm actually Canadian. I live in Montreal, Canada, but my dad's Peruvian, and I grew up there till age 17. So in 1992, I got into reggae. I got into Bob Marley and Yellowman and all the other Rasta music that we used to listen to. We couldn't buy T-shirts or posters or even Rasta hats or anything, because in Peru there wasn't any importation. So I had to start making my own T-shirts and posters and etc. This is a page from my journal, and as you can see on the side, I'm all saying like legalize Kaya. That 12-year-old probably didn't really know what Kaya meant, but I'm just imitating these Rastas. And actually, throughout my whole time in Peru, I never was offered weed or any drugs. By the time I left Peru, I never even heard what ayahuasca was. I was just like a white Lima kid that, skateboarded with his friends and listened to music and went surfing on the weekends and soccer stadium and street gang activities, etc. But no weed, no medicines, no nothing. Only in what year? 1998, I went back to Peru after I'd moved back to Canada, and all of a sudden, all my friends were like smoking weed. And I right away, I had to jump on the bandwagon with all my friends and start smoking weed. And this is a picture of the plants that my friends were growing on their rooftop. And my dad had this like Rasta weed t-shirt that I took from him. And basically I turned into a pothead in like a week, which is a little bit radical for me. And I remember taking this picture. And at one point, me thinking that those were actually good weed plants, I sent it to High Times magazine, but either it didn't get to them or it got rejected. And it came back to my apartment in Ottawa, where I was living with my grandmother. And she's like, "What? An envelope to High Times magazine? What is this?" And then she opened up the envelope and she saw these pictures, and she was so mad at me. She wanted to kick me out of the apartment for smoking pot, which is always like her enemy, because society always tells us that doing these things is a terrible, evil thing. As you can see in the lower picture, I feel like such a badass smoking my joint out there on the beach. This is like late 90s vibe. So that's my initiation into psychedelics, I just start smoking weed, which both made me feel liberated in some ways, but also gave me some paranoia and insecurities in other ways. Maybe I was too sensitive for herb at that time, but I was with my friends, I was having fun, and it does give you this beautiful buzz in the belly. So I kept on going. Now, it didn't even take like a month after, and my friends who were all into, drugs in general at the time were like, "Hey, we found another one. This one's called San Pedro." So San Pedro is a cactus that has mescaline, and it's traditional for Peruvians to plant one at the entrance of each house, because San Pedro, Saint Peter in English, is the saint that guards heaven. So if you put Saint Peter at the door of your house, it protects your house. So basically, you just gotta like go around your neighborhood and see the one that has more than 7 lines. So if one was like a chunky one with more than 7 lines, you would cut it with a machete, put it in your towel, and run away on your bicycle. And we would collect a few of these San Pedros that we'd chop off from our neighbors' front entrance. And then we'd go to our beach houses that by that time was like winter time. So all the houses were kind of closed and nobody was around. We'd cook it for 4 hours. Well, cut it, get the green parts, cook it for 4 hours, and then drink it together, and then start tripping out. And we weren't doing it in a shamanic, conscious way for our evolution and healing. We just wanted to trip out and like have fun and run around, be all weird and trippy. But you still learn from those things. It was one of my first times where I realized like, wow, there's another level of reality than the physical one that I've been accustomed to all these years. And we had some really interesting conversations. And actually there's this whole separate story from the day after this time that I did San Pedro with my friends. Because if you look at the lower panel of the left page, you see this U shape that's all talking to me. And that's a symbol of my soccer team that at the time I was like a fan of. I was in a street gang at the time. And the whole objective was to go and cheer your team, in the soccer stadium. And the symbol of the team was like, "Hey, you're coming to the soccer team tomorrow, to the soccer match tomorrow, right?" It's like, dude, I'm like 3 hours away from the soccer stadium. I'm tripping out. I can't go tomorrow. Just let me rest. It's like, dude, don't be a bad fan. You gotta come and cheer for me. And I was like, okay, I'll go tomorrow. So the day after, in the last panel at the right-hand side, I'm like, trying to get back to Lima to go to like the worst part of town to see the soccer match. And in that day, and I'm not going to make this a super long story, but basically we got into a big brawl against another street gang. And I ended up throwing a brick at a guy, and it almost hit his head. And I actually realized that I almost killed a human in that instant. And that made me quit the whole thing, the whole street gang thing. After I saw that I almost killed a human by throwing a brick at his head, I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, is this really who you are, Chris? So in a way, I think that San Pedro was trying to get me on that negative experience for me to learn from it, to stop doing those negative street gang activities I was doing those days in Lima, Peru. Now, I moved to Canada 1996. I went to college for like 8 years. I wanted to be an artist, and I became an artist. So I went to art college for a long time. And in those years, after that, visit to Peru, I fully got into smoking weed. I was like, really into it. My school projects were about it. As you can see in the top picture, I had constructed a sculpture called the Ganja Gun. Check out those sweet late 90s fat ass pants. Is like, I love them, you know? Like, I don't understand why people don't use this crazy big pants anymore. And then I started growing my dreadlocks, and, you know, smoking. And it was, you know, those are the days where it was like both very illegal, but also the weed wasn't so strong, you know? It was basically you can smoke and not blow your wig off. It's like, you know, digestible. And I was honest about it. This is one of my school projects. And the teacher didn't smoke weed. He wasn't down with that, but he really appreciated how honest I was about expressing the way I felt through the, you know, psychedelic I was using with at the time. So this is one of the school projects I gave in. You know, I'm going to keep on talking about different psychedelics, but I'm going to like tell you where I am at today with weed. So I learned a lot from Herb, but as the years went by, it kept on giving me more and more paranoia and anxiety. I don't know if the weed got stronger or way too strong. That's like undeniable that the weed today got way too strong because people's tolerance went up. So the THC kept on going up and maybe the CBD went down. But I stopped having fun with weed. It started really fucking with my mind. I started becoming a very paranoid, afraid, insecure individual. And maybe I shouldn't even blame the weed, but something in the weed was triggering it. Maybe I had certain negative experiences while smoking weed, and then every time I smoke weed, it kind of triggers it or brings it back up. But basically, my mind starts going nuts when I smoke weed now. So I might smoke weed once in a while, and just very little, enough to give me that belly buzz that feels good, but not so much for my mind to start going nuts. And in general, you know, it's just not the healthiest thing for me, even for my lungs or my health. The problem is if once I get over the curve of the paranoia, I start getting used to it and it becomes fun again, but then I like it too much. And then I start smoking all day long, every day, and I just need it. It's like, where's my buzz? Where's the next hit? Like I do become addictive. I know they say that weed's not addictive, but I do, and I always want more and more and more and more and more. And I lose my freedom, you know, and I don't want to lose my freedom. I want to do it in a way that changes my consciousness. But if I'm always on the weed cloud, I think the change of consciousness would be to go back to sobriety. So it's all about moderation. It's all about respecting these entities that have such a great power, but you don't want to abuse them, or if not, they'll start abusing you. I don't know if you can relate or not. You can comment there. Right now, I can't read your comments. I'm just going to keep on yapping, and then later on, we can have a conversation, or you can ask me stuff in your questions. So yeah, that's where I'm at with weed. I definitely think it's a personal thing. Some people, it's their medicine. Other people, it's their poison, or maybe something that doesn't benefit them anymore. But I'm happy it's getting legalized. And here in Canada, it's legalized. And that just lifts off this stress, this tension, this Babylon society trying to impose shifts of consciousness to be legal or illegal. We should have our own choice to say yes or no. In the same way that I should have my same choice to be like, you know what, I don't want to smoke weed anymore. And my fans might be like, but you're this trippy artist. You're supposed to smoke weed just like me. It's like, sorry, man, you got your journey. I got my process. I respect you. You respect me. So it's all about that. Now, the next big psychedelic that I started doing was mushrooms. So these are my college friends. This is like, once again, 1998, 1999. We're a bunch of skateboarders, and we like to drink a lot. I was once I got to Canada, I wasn't in a street gang anymore. So I'm the guy there at the bottom, the guy with the Bob Marley t-shirt, the handsomer one. Once I got to Canada, I wasn't into a street guy anymore, but still my destructive energy, though calmed a little bit by the weed smokage, was still kind of like on a rampage. But then me and my friends had, once in a while we'd do mushrooms, especially on Canada Day. Canada Day was like classic. You gotta eat your mushrooms. And we were in Ottawa at the time. So we'd eat the mushrooms in Gatineau, cross the Gatineau Bridge to downtown Ottawa, where everybody's walking around with their families. And I'm just like tripping out, like looking at all the people and the suits, and just, many times it would rain. It was really fun. The fireworks was fun. And as you can see, me and my friends had a good time. So yeah, at the beginnings, mushrooms was just purely for entertainment, for having a good time, and not really for looking for healing or consciousness or none of that. It's like party mode. I remember I went to a concert in 98, 99, Edge Fest, and we eaten mushrooms, and it was Green Day, and it was Foo Fighters, and I think Our Lady Peace. For you Canadians out there, you know who that is. Americans won't know. And it was a great concert, and we were totally on shrooms, and on top we were drunk too. And then the guy from Much Music came over and thought we were cool. We're actually smoking a joint on the floor, and the guy from Much Music comes and he wants to interview us because he thought we looked cool. And then all of a sudden we're on TV, like on mushrooms, drunk and stoned from just smoking a joint. And he's like, "Which band did you like?" And then everybody around saying like, "Hey, there's the TV people." And everyone starts gathering around us, and we're all like, "What the fuck? This is so surreal." And I got it all on tape. It's on a VH tape somewhere. Anyways, an experience that really healed me in my life was tree planting. I would say nature has always been the biggest psychedelic for me. And psychedelics come from nature, of course, the better ones at least, or to my opinion, the true ones. And in that tree planting experience, I started to learn so much about myself. I got away from my negativities, and I started just experiencing nature that we're planting in every day. And also I had some amazing mushroom experiences there too, but I started kind of like observing it from a more spiritual point of view and understanding who I was and what spirituality really was. Because when you ask the adults like, "Yo, what's spirituality? How do I reach God?" At least in Peru, people would say like, "Oh, it's Jesus, it's God. You got to go to church. That's how you're going to reach it." So you go to church, and I heard some really beautiful things, but it never really motivated me or showed me the true face of God. But once I went tree planting and experienced nature without culture, and I could reinvent myself and start being the negative asshole that I've become. And then you do mushrooms, you understand what it is to be a tree and who God really is. And God can't be captured by a culture. So then I started hitchhiking and listening to synchronicities and really just listening to the wisdom that the world had for me out there. And this painting, which I did in 2001, was me kind of like stepping in from my negative to my positive road. Once I understood a few things, I was like, I want to be a good person. I got all this power. I got this art. I got this heart. Do I really want to continue being this negative asshole? I want to become good, and I want to use my art for good. I want to help heal the world. I want to save nature, and I don't want the environment to go to shit. Like, I want to do my contribution. So in that way, I feel both nature and synchronicities and psychedelics help me heal that pain, that human pain that I carried inside, that we all have from the traumas that life gives you. And, I'm very grateful for it. And always I did art to reflect that. Now I've done paintings with mushrooms throughout my career. This is from later on. That's from 2016. I originally drew this guy on the walls of Cosm at the Mushroom Cafe. And then a client from Manhattan asked me to do a proper painting. So it's pretty funny ones, a mushroom land, mushroom muncher enjoying his meal of the day. Then this is another mushroom painting that I painted on the ceiling pretty much of Alex Gray's Cosm in the Mushroom Cafe. It's a place I go to once a year to teach workshops, and I've become good friends with the Grays. I love them so much. Such a great space for pilgrimage and for psychedelic and art culture to come together to celebrate the world we are creating and we will continue to create. And we're all, us artists, are these soldiers of the light, of the good army that I imagine you guys are too by listening to this. And this art is part of our weaponry. We use this art to try to tell humanity or normal society that there's this other world inside us that's bigger than the physical world we're all fighting to dominate. And if we realize our God selves, if we realize the magic we have inside our own selves, we would start enjoying this world a little bit better. It was just kind of celebrate the facts that we are God who made himself into physical, in a physical terrain, to have all these beautiful blessings and to eat a cherry and to, I don't know, paint and enjoy and rejoice. Now, when it comes to mushrooms, I did mushrooms so much that at one point I felt like I got the point it had to teach me. It was telling me like that we're all one, that everything is good all the time, like all these beautiful realizations about how we're like truly spiritual. And at one point I kind of like just stopped taking mushrooms. I moved on. Actually, for years I didn't do psychedelics at all, no weed, no nothing. I just felt like, okay, I'm good now. I learned my lessons and now I just need to live my life through the knowledge that psychedelics gave me. I can't just kind of like use it nonstop, because that's not healthy neither. As I said before with the weed, you know, like if you abuse it, it abuses you and vice versa. And we got to like learn how to walk with our own feet, not let others do the walking. But lately, this year, because of COVID, I've been going through some hard times, emotional. I was, in March, I was, scheduled to get married. And but then I got separated from my girlfriend, and then our communications went bad, and by now we're broken up, and I've had to be alone through a lot of this stuff. And when I was trapped in Peru, because I got trapped in Peru with my parents for 3 months, I didn't really like fall back on psychedelics, even though I could have chopped down my dad's San Pedro and eaten that, but I kind of like felt like the life was my psychedelic, like the intensity of the energy in the air and etc. was a psychedelic, and I'm just trying to digest that. Like to throw psychedelics on top of it might have been a little bit too intense. But as I got back to Canada, I recently got repatriated, like 3-4 weeks ago. There was one flight to get me back. The next flights are in like October. I felt so trapped down there, and now I'm back home. I did my 2 weeks quarantine. Now I can go outside. But I also bought a bag of mushrooms, and I started to do mushrooms once a week by myself in my living room. I close the curtains, I put shamanic music, and I eat like a gram or two. And I've been going through my emotions, through the, through my breakup. Yesterday, on the new moon, there was a really intense energy. The Schumann resonance was off the roofs. And I had finally told my ex-girlfriend, ex-fiancé, that I was cutting the ties, I was moving forward, that I was packing her stuff and sending it back to Florida, that I had to like clear the space and just be by myself and regain my own energy. And it was really sad for many reasons. And it's, I can't explain to you how sad it was for me. So I was like, okay, I'm doing a ceremony, and I ate a nice fat mushroom. And then I cried. I cried so hard and so long that I was afraid my neighbors were going to be calling the cops because they thought some old lady was getting murdered in my apartment. Just like, ah! Ah! Because I just had to fucking let it out. And I'm a man. I got blockages, like I've been taught by my parents and all the macho men around me my whole life that you're not supposed to cry. You're supposed to be strong, and men don't cry, and blah, 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 blah. And these are just blockages that are not allowing my emotions to flow through. So thank you to the mushroom for letting me just be purely myself and allow me to have true human emotions and release some of the stress and pain that I hold as a man. And, as a man that lost his girlfriend, that has to let it go and has to move forward into the unknown, into the uncertainty, into fear, into etc. And I thank you, and I thank the mushrooms and all the psychedelics. Actually, now when I do mushrooms, it's almost like an ayahuasca ceremony to me. Less visuals, but I've done so much ayahuasca that it's almost like the mushroom opens the portal and ayahuasca comes in. It's like, thank you, Mr. Mushroom. I'll take it from here. And then ayahuasca is just kind of like squeezing me as a sponge, like, and I don't fully puke, but I definitely spit so much. I also do rapé in the middle of it. Anyways, I'm getting a little bit gross here, but you get the point. Anyways, this painting right here is called Moksha Master. It was done for the Moksha family in Miami, Florida, which is the Florida contingency for psychedelics and visionary art and music. And once a year, when they do their Miami Art Basel events, they hire different visionary artists to do their symbol, which has different factors in it. It's like it's got to be a face of ecstasy, somewhat, of a self-portrait of the artist who does it. It has to have the mushroom cap at the top. So I kind of like made the mushroom cap at the top, kind of like an ejaculating penis of consciousness, but also with a vagina right in the middle of it to kind of like bring the both creation symbols. And I also put some medicine on its tongue, like a pill, not necessarily acid or ecstasy or anything specific, just medicine. Though, a lot of people get down with LSD. It's a very common medicine in our tribe, for good reasons. To me, it hasn't really been so great. LSD, acid is not my medicine. I've taken it only a few times, and maybe it could be my medicine, but at this point, I'm not forcing myself. Another factor in what I got to tell you about myself is that my grandfather was schizophrenic. He could talk to angels, and he kidnapped one of his families to then hide in Peru. Thus, how my mom ended up living in Peru and meeting my dad, and etc. It's a very trippy story, but it's got nothing to do with psychedelics. So my grandfather's schizophrenic, and on my dad's side of the family, my uncle is schizophrenic or crazy because he did too much acid at age 16 or 15 or something. He was already kind of off, but the acid kind of pushed him over the edge. So I'm not saying like acid will make you crazy, but there is that risk, as we know. Like a lot of these psychedelics are a double-edged sword, and I'm not here to promote psychedelics or to say psychedelics good, psychedelics bad, but that's where like some people, like an institution like MAPS is where it comes in. It's like, look, we know there's a good way to use psychedelics. Let us give you a good set and setting, a good place to do it with the good amounts, with good observation. Let it make it be safe. If you're just doing any amounts in any place, you don't know what's, out there in the air. Like there's interdimensional entities that could just get in you. That's some dirt you don't want in your body temple. And maybe your chemical composition is not the kind of chemical composition that needs to be pushed off the edge. So I'm thinking maybe I'm a little bit too sensitive to just throw a million kinds of certain psychedelics that might create some kind of paranoid psychosis in myself. So I'm very careful with myself. And now more recent in my life, I'm a lot more ceremonial and shamanic about how I take my psychedelics. Now, when it comes to acid, I've never been in a place where we've done it in a ceremonial way. It's more like, hey, we're out here in a festival or scenario, and here's some acid, take it, and then I take it, and it's not so fun for me. It doesn't make me feel comfortable in my body, so I listen to myself, and I don't continue taking it. Now, talking about acid, do you guys know the Further bus? Ken Casey's bus that he took around America to introduce acid to the country at the time of revolution, at the time when acid was just coming out, and some hippies thought it was a good idea to just kind of like let it out to the masses so they could try it. Now, I'm not going to say that's good or bad because what's the book I listened to recently? Is it Out of Your Mind? Where he looks at the whole history of psychedelics, and it seemed like there's a lot of great research happening before the hippies kind of took a hold of the acid, and then once it got out there, there was a lot of good that happened, but also a lot of bad. And as per usual, Babylon society and the media will only focus on the bad, giving them an excuse to make it illegal. Luckily, we're turning the page on that chapter, and it's becoming legal again, or at least legal in the sense that we can start doing a little bit more research, like we're seeing with MAPS. So that's beautiful. Let's heal history. Let's teach that psychedelics can be a positive thing. Anyways, talking about this Further bus, Ken Casey is a friend of mine in Eugene, Oregon, the son of Ken Casey, and he does my blotter prints, which you can buy at positecreations.net. And he invited me to paint one of the further buses. So the original further bus, the one that was used to like go across America in the 50s and 60s, and then later was abandoned in the swamp, is the bus to the right. But then in the 90s, Ken Casey just bought another bus, exactly the same, just newer, and painted it once again. Mostly he painted it, and there's a couple other artists that painted it. But then Sam said like, hey, you want to paint a little something on the bus? And I'm like, wow, that'd be such an honor. So while I was in doing an event, I was live painting in Portland, I hit up Sam's like, yo, man, I'm in the area. Can I come over and paint your bus? So I went over and I stayed at the, I stayed around there, and I went to the Ken Casey farm. Ken Casey, who wrote, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and, was part of the whole electric Kool-Aid test, and one of the main dudes of the Merry Pranksters I was mentioning before. His house was left intact as if he never died. It's just kind of like closed up, but like all his things are still there. And then at the back of the land, it's his tomb. So, I spent some time there and honored the place. And then I went to the barn, which at one point the Grateful Dead had played at concerts. Like when the Grateful Dead was just kind of like starting out, they would play in this barn. I'm painting in there. And I started painting the bus. And one of the kids there was like, dude, man, we got some acid. Do you want to do it? And I'm like, I don't usually do acid, but if I'm going to do it anywhere, this is the place. So I'm not a closed-minded dude, like I gotta like feel out when it's the correct time to do it. And this is like acid history right here. And it's almost like I need to be in the vibration of these two beautiful buses in order to properly do a painting. Now the painting is not crazy good. It's something I could do in a day, but that middle part, that whale tail, that was Ken Casey. So it's done by Ken Casey. So for me, it's like I did a collaboration with, Ken Casey, who has passed away, of course. And it's a huge honor. And I'm so happy that, that despite me not being super down with every single psychedelic, that I can still contribute my own personal psychedelic art to the magic of all these different cultures that build this movement. Now, my art is psychedelic, I guess. You would not believe it, but this is one of the paintings that I did in that period when I was not doing any drugs or psychedelics. I just kind of like, that's my nature, I don't know what's up with me that I express in this way. But in this case, the painting's about the evolution of humanity. It was painted in 2008 to 2009, and we were going to Arts 2012. And we didn't know if we were going to like evolve or be destroyed. And I was like, I want to see evolution. I want to see humanity rise up and be what it could be. So I made this creature, neo-human evolution. So not that I think that we're going to look like this guy when we evolve, though maybe we'll look like it inside, but we, symbolically speaking, that net of consciousness around him is kind of like what connects us to the whole universe. We're not separate from all of the galaxies out there in our little, physical dimension. And we got the wings of angels, and we're balanced in our, sacred geometry. And we got a belt of the different aliens that have been on planet Earth, including the spirit of Mama Gaia in the middle there with her Egyptian wings too. And then we got all this fire connecting us to the wisdom of the ancient cultures that I put at the bottom. And I didn't paint them as ruins. I painted them as activated buildings, showing how wise we used to be at some point, to the point of building things that we still can't build today. So many mysteries on our planet, totally connected with aliens and the different constellations that these ruins are connected to. I put above those buildings. We got an open heart, we got a totally activated pineal gland, and we're also above the Illuminati, draconian, reptilian, 13 families dominating the world. May you believe they're actual reptiles or not, that's up to you. I just kind of like put the information that I listened to from different books, mostly Rubello Melchizedek's Flower of Life book, and speeches by Graham Hancock. And actually, I've even read other channel books that all say that this reptilian alien race came to planet Earth 100,000 years ago and mixed their DNA with us. And that's why I put the little embryo in the belly of the reptile we look like a little reptile when we start, and then we turn into a mammal. So, and on the leg it says Elohim, which means those who came from above, so, or God, you know, depending on how you want to see the equation. So according to many different people, aliens came from above, fucked with our DNA, created human beings to, I don't know, mine gold for their atmosphere, for Nibiru. Now we're going into like all these stories, and I'm not trying to convince you that are right or wrong. I'm just telling a story here. But the point of this is the evolved human being, the neo-human evolution, will be above any kind of negativity, may it be alien or just evil humans, who love their money, and that's why they're reptiles hugging all those gold coins. We will be above them. We don't even have to kill them. We don't want to kill anybody. We're all love, yo. We're all love. And they want to kill us. They want to enslave us. We don't want to get back at them. We just want to be above them, because we'll be so enlightened that they can throw anything at us and we'll still rise above. And that's where we're going, people. We got to believe it. We got to manifest it. And this is what art's for, to create blueprints to where we want to go. And this image resonates to a lot of people. May they know what it's about, or they just think it's a trippy thing. So when people see this, it's like, oh, dude, I saw that guy on my DMT trip. And at this point, I'd done DMT before, but I barely remembered it at that point. And I definitely wasn't doing ayahuasca yet. And people was like, well, that's so ayahuasca. It's like, well, that's just my imagination, man. If anything, I didn't want to do ayahuasca for a long time because I hate stereotypes. I hate being placed in a box, you know? People are all like, yo, man, you're Peruvian and you do psychedelic art. You must do mad ayahuasca. And I'm like, fuck no, man. This is my own heart. This is my own expression. This is my soul on a canvas. Don't treat me as if I'm ghostwriting, you know? Don't tell me that my soul expression needs a drug in order for me to do it. Look, I don't need it, but it's being helpful. And in a way, that was my ego defending itself, being like, no, I don't need anybody, only me. And sometimes we can dance that dance, you know? It's like, I don't need God. I don't need friends. I can do this by myself. And of course you can, Chris, or whoever you are. But it's nice when you have a little help from your friends. And it was only years later that I ended up in Peru, and this shaman who I've been observing for 8 years at that point, he offered to play music at this art show I was having in Lima. I was having a big art show, and he said, like, hey, I'll play some music for you. He came, he rocked the show. Everybody was impressed. And my wife at the time was all like, Chris, you got to go to the jungle. This is going to change your life. It's like, really? You didn't want to go to the jungle before right now? He was like, yes, I hate spiders. I hate dirt. I hate any insects. And I hate living in huts that don't really have walls. But you got to go. You got to go. And so I went and I experienced ayahuasca. And at the time, I was just doing it out of curiosity. I didn't feel there was anything that I needed to heal. I just kind of felt like I was in a good place at that point. I was married. Things were going good in my career. Everything was good. But so I just tried it, and I learned, like, wow, this is the strongest psychedelic I've had. It took me places that I've not gone with any psychedelics before, so deep. It's like, basically, she told me, Chris, your life is your ayahuasca ceremony. You've been doing the work for 33 years. You know, thank you so much for your contribution to what you're doing to the collective. I've been with you before. I will continue being with you after this forever. God's always in your heart. I don't think it's like ayahuasca itself who talks to you. I think it's like God that's allowed to talk to you through the portal that ayahuasca gives you. So I learned a lot on that first ayahuasca trip. She basically showed me all of the art of the universe, art I could never do. And actually, I never even seen my art in ayahuasca land. Like, I can see how my art has a vibe from that DMT world or the psychedelic world, but I've never specifically seen my art in it. I always see everybody else's art, and I'm always impressed when other artists can really recreate it because it's so intense and special, you know, just so detailed and big. It's never ending. It's 3D all around you and infinite and changing, and it's not even really made out of matter. And it's just so complicated. I can't really do it justice with my art, but I just bring very small glimpses, very humble offerings that are really a nothing compared to what it really is in there or out there. But anyway, so this is my shaman, Herbert Quinteros. I fucking love this guy. He's been my healer for like 7 years now. And he's from Peru. He's from Tarapoto. He serves at a center called Katari Center. He's right now trapped in India. He's an amazing musician. If you want to listen to amazing shamanic music, Herbert Quinteros. Can ask me later if you want to. But he's a fucking man. He's one of my best friends, and he's helped me so much. So in those two first ceremonies, the first ceremony was fucking beautiful. But then I threw up, and I could see a little bit of my dirt came out in that throw up. I mean, like my energetical dirt. So for the second ceremony, I told her, yo, that was so nice that you gave me such a magical mystery tour on my first ayahuasca initiation trip. But if you need to kick my ass, you know, go ahead, kick my ass, you know, get some of my anger out. I got anger issues, and get it out. And she just lit me up on flames, yo. Like, I was on fire for hours, just burning and burning. I'm just like, and Herbert seeing me being like, yeah, she's working, yeah, man. It's like, you're not gonna help me? No, she's gotta do her thing. I'm just gonna let you struggle there. It's what you gotta go through. I'm not gonna save you. Like, that's the process. But it's just like for hours and hours. And I'm like, Herbert, enough. So after a while, he's like, okay, you've worked enough. So come here in front of me. So I drag myself in front of him, get and kneel down. And he grabs his guitar and just goes like, and he just goes to a specific song, and then boom, projectile puking coming out. And I was like amazed. I was like, wow, how can he command the medicine in my belly by singing a song? Like, what is this? Like a snake charmer? Like, how does he talk to it and conduct it? And then when I projectile puke into the bucket, he says like, ahí salió la rabia, which means there came out your anger. And he had no idea that I had told myself or herself inside me that I want to get some anger. And he saw it. So I was once again like, oh my God, how did you know that my intention was to get some anger out? So that really confirmed it for me that this was something very magical and special, more than just like a drug activating chemicals in somebody's brain. It was actually like a deep spiritual connection between all of us. And yeah, it was beautiful. So this is the painting that I did from that first ayahuasca ceremony. When I first drew it, a fan of mine on Instagram saw it and was like, wow, that's amazing. Can I do a 3D canvas from it? And I was like, fuck yeah, you can do a 3D canvas with it. And so then he went out and he made a 3D canvas with it. And then in one of my Cosm workshops, he showed up and delivered it for me. And then I painted it up throughout the years. And this was more or less the coronation that I felt when I was in that place. You can both see my puke coming out with all this dirt and insects, but also I'm holding on to my bucket for dear life because the bucket's like only island of security. But then I have wings of liberation. Ayahuasca is so like interesting because you're both so in a position of anxiety. Your body is just really not happy. Your body's like, fuck this shit. What the fuck, dude? Like, why are you doing this to me? But your being, your soul, your spirit is just soaring into new levels of consciousness and reality, teaching you who you really are deep in there. So it's a really interesting juxtaposition, and you can just totally forget about the body discomfort or accept it or surrender. And that's what they always tell, just surrender to the medicine. Let her fucking do whatever she wants with you if you really want to learn what she's got to teach you. And she's fucking kicked my ass throughout the years. I've done it like 30 times by now, and she's really done a lot with me. She's really in the last few times, she's really started to electrocute me to the point where like my body pressure gets so high, I don't think I'm gonna be able to live through it. But she's wise. She would never want to kill me, and that's always something I gotta like remember. Even though sometimes it looks like she wants to kill me in order for me to lose my fear of death, she knows what she's doing, and I just gotta trust and let her fucking kick my ass, because she's expanding me. She really wants me to be a healed, liberated human being. So when she electrocutes me and saps me, it's almost like she's trying to sap out the parasites that lodged itself in my body. She's like, oh, he's got this fear, he's got this trauma, he can't let go of it somehow, he's just not able to let go, so I'm gonna have to fucking sap this motherfucker. Come on, bitch, let it go. Let go of that fear. You don't need it in your life. And I'm like, oh no, this is all I got. My ego needs it. She's like, I'm gonna fucking choke it out of you, Chris. So I'm exaggerating a little bit, but pretty much, yeah, this is how she treats me. And I fucking love her, man. She's also like giving me so much love, and she just holds me in her arms, But anyways, so that was my first couple times doing ayahuasca. I thought that's all I needed. It's like, okay, that was very fucking interesting. I'm moving on now with my life. My life is pretty sweet. But actually, my life I had a lot of bumps. My wife started to get sick. She ended up having cancer, and she lost her thyroid. And then I made her quit her job so she could stay at home and work for me because my career was going good. But then we were together for too long and we started fighting. And then I was depressed about it, and I started smoking weed again behind her back because she knew it wasn't good for me. And she saw I wasn't empowered when I was super stoned. But, and I painted this painting while I was there. And it's a metaphor for me, both as soul and as a community, to move from a negative place to a positive place. There's a lot of archetypes on this book, on this painting. To the left, to the right, we got the shaman pointing the way. Then we got the warrior, that is kind of like a representation of my kitty cat, and I'm the shaman in the painting because I think I'm cool like that. Then the next one is the wifey, home taker, who would be Valerie, my ex-wife at the time. And then the three elements in the back are more characteristics that we all have. We got at the bottom there, it's the freak, just the weirdo, crazy aspect of ourselves. And then on top is the artist, creating reality and making the world a better place. And then the last one that's looking on the opposite direction is the hater. He's kind of like our negativity. He's like saying to the old world, fuck you, old world. Because even when we move into the positive world, we'll still probably carry our negativities in us. And it's part of humanity. May we balance out the negative from the positive that we got in this world. And in ourselves, we'll still have a little bit of it. It's part of the dualistic world that we live in. It's almost like you can't fight it. It's just got to accept it and work with it, and not let it dominate us, or definitely not let it get to the front of the boat and lead the way. Just let it be on the boat, let it bitch a little bit, So that was the process when I was painting this painting, which took me almost a year to do. It's in my living room right now. I don't really sell most of my big paintings, both because I made them for myself and spirit doesn't want them to leave my side, but also because they get kind of expensive and people don't want to spend so much on a painting. But I don't do these paintings for money. I do them for my self-expression and healing. So I was sick at this time, my marriage wasn't good. I was smoking too much weed. So I went back to Atari, to the jungle, and I did more ceremonies. And I actually, when I asked the medicine, like, should I stay in my marriage? Should I be the good husband that stays home and stops traveling the world? Because that was the whole problem, I became popular in my art. So everybody wants me to paint around the world. But then my wife was all like, what about me? I'm sick. Why don't you just stay at home and take care of me like the husband that you're supposed to be? And I'm like, but I got this destiny. I was born to be an artist. I was born to be this traveling artist that goes around the world healing people. And I love you, and you can't travel anymore, because she had some issue with her head at that point, with her eustachian tube in her ear, and she didn't like the pressure of the airplanes, etc. So I feel like such a bad person. It's like, oh my God, if I travel and I try to heal the world, I let my wife down. But if I stay home, I feel like unauthentic, like I'm not really fulfilling the role of my life. So I went to the jungle. Herbert had to work me hard to get rid of the weed parasite, or the parasite that wanted weed to be fed weed, whatever it is. It's not clear to me, but I had to do a whole dieta with Ayahuasca. It's first time doing a power plant dieta. And yeah, after that, I stopped smoking weed. I've never really been addicted to weed so hard as that time. You know, it's not like I never smoked weed again. I do it once in a while, but right away my inner alarm goes like, okay, enjoy that, it's fun, but don't get hooked on it. And then so it goes. But also, when I asked ayahuasca, should I stay married? Like, is it correct for me to stay married and be this good husband and just let my ego and my chasing of my career to the side? Like, is that the correct? And she's like, no, actually, the world's hurting right now, Chris. You're supposed to be out in the world and heal it. And you're a healer. You got a special energy. You got special art. You will heal thousands of people by being out there in the world doing your thing. While if you stay home, you will only heal one. You'll heal your wife. And that's good too. But right now, the world needs you. So I need you to sacrifice the comfort of your beautiful house and marriage and get out there in the world and be a fucking spiritual warrior and serve all these strangers. That's your goal. That's your mission. And that was really hard for me. I cried so much during that retreat because I was losing my wife. I was losing the house that we had bought together. I had to move out and rent an apartment once again and be single at age 37. That at the time seemed so old. Now I'm 41, and it seems like I felt more old then than I feel now. It was a hard time. So at least I could travel the world, and I started, doing. So basically, this painting I painted in Russia. I was traveling the world. I just fucking went everywhere. I was like, well, if I'm not gonna be married and now I can travel, I'm just gonna go everywhere. So one of the places I went was Russia. And while I was in Moscow, I hit up Herbert, my shaman, like, yo, Herbert, do you know anybody cool or spiritual that I can hang out in Moscow while I'm here for 10 days? Because the job I was supposed to do kind of fell through. And he's like, dude, I'm arriving the day you arrive and I'm leaving the day you leave. So that kind of synchronicity is kind of like mind-blowing once again. It's like, holy shit, like what are the odds that we'd be in the same time at the same place? Plus, I could really use an ayahuasca ceremony right now. I just came out of my divorce and I need some healing. So I did some ceremonies out there in the Moscow area, and it really helped me turn the page. It really helped me. And this is the art that came out from that. And I know it's different. It's a little bit less trippy or psychedelic. But at that point, I feel like I was like, I don't know, breaking myself into brand new pieces and reconstructing myself into a brand new Chris. So my art kind of like reflected a different aspect of myself. So this one I then painted in Portugal. My next stop was Boom Festival. And it's once again, it's not very subjective, you know, it's not about creatures as much of just shapes and colors and the geometrical vibration of the DMT world. Shannon, am I doing good? Like, I know it's been almost an hour. Should I keep on going for another like 15 minutes, or am I boring you guys to tears?
No, you're awesome, Chris. Whatever you want to do. If you have more to keep going, keep going.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Wow, I heard somebody's voice. At one point, I was like, is people still listening? This is a very quiet crowd. But anyway, so this one I painted that same year. It was in Nepal, between Nepal and Bali. Basically, it was just traveling all around, like anywhere I wanted to go, Eastern Island, whatever. I was on my healing. I would like hike the Himalayas. Like basically, I was like in a good financial position, and I was just hungry to travel and to heal. And I also needed some sexual healing. I don't know if any of you guys are being married, but sometimes there's droughts, especially when you're going towards a divorce. there's not too much of that happening. And I kind of like, as a guy getting closest to his 40s, I need to regain my my power, my kundalini rising. And that's what I did in that time, as I started getting closer to this beautiful younger girl that came in my path, Ariani, the girlfriend that I told you earlier yesterday I'm just breaking up with, and I had to cry so much. Well, we're breaking up together. It's a complicated situation. Basically, we're not aligned anymore, and COVID just kind of like broke us up. But once again, don't want to talk about my personal life too much, though. It's very intertwined with my art. It's almost like unescapable to tell what my art's about without telling, what's going in my heart, because that's what my art's about. This is a painting of when Ariani and me first started going out. So basically, she's from Florida. She's a lot younger than me, but she's from a Brazilian family. So she was doing ayahuasca since she was 13 years old. So she was very like awakened, old soul in a young body. And it was like beautiful. And we had such a beautiful romance. And, that first year together. And I put the Himalayas there at the bottom, because I kind of like was vibrating that reality towards me. And then, we hanged out in Bali. So you can see the Bali rice fields in the middle. And then we went to Peru together. So there's Machu Picchu. And then we went to Arizona. That was the first 3 main trips we did together when we fell in love. And she needs to heal her throat chakra, her communication skills, which is part of why we just broke up, because she's still working on that. So I'll put that Om symbol on her throat. And this is, I would say it's a painting that's a little bit closer to a traditional ayahuasca painting, because it's more in the style that, say, like a Pablo Amaringo painting. Not that that's a painting that looks like a Pablo Amaringo painting, but more in its composition, where there's like a lot of different things happening at the same time. It's like there's a lot of little mini paintings all thrown together in an interesting composition. So this I started painting in one of my art retreats in Tarapoto. So basically, I do an art retreat in Peru every year, which I'll talk a little bit later in this speech. But yeah, so we've had some really strong ayahuasca ceremonies together. I'd say, once again, love and even sex is such a beautiful psychedelic. Luckily, those are legal. Now, that year, I painted, when I was with Ariani, I painted this, the ultimate spiritual warrior. And it was basically me trying to paint an archetype for the ultimate, empowered, confident, strong warrior of the light that's out there to serve humanity with its weapons of love and intelligence, ready to serve in every single way on its magical skateboard that's kind of like a Buddhist. And basically, I mix a lot of cultures into one. Here you can see Egyptian stuff, you can see Inca stuff, and ayahuasca, angelic, interdimensional, skateboard, like sneaker culture. Basically, I'm a mix of a bunch of cultures, and I mix it all into one. Because that's what I want to see in the world. I want us all to become one, not to have this like, well, I'm this race and you're that country and I'm this religion and we're all supposed to be divided and how dare you have dreadlocks when you're this race and blah, 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 all that bullshit. Like, I'm over it. Let's all become one and just accept each other and just love each other. And enough of this division BS that, all these boxes that we're thrown on. If anything, when I do psychedelics or ayahuasca, it's all about breaking these stupid ass boxes that we're thrown in all the time, and just to be free and liberated and be whatever that may be, even with your insecurities, even with your problems and your negativities. Accept yourself, love yourself, be it, and have less judgment for yourself and for others. We're not perfect, but that's beautiful too. There's perfection in that imperfection. Now, in that year, I also ended up in Brazil. And by coincidence, once again, my shaman Herbert was getting married in Brazil. Like, I was in Brazil for an event in Sao Paulo for like a psychedelic biennale. But by coincidence, and it just always blows my mind how Herbert was there at the same time too, my shaman, and he's getting married in the rainforest with the Yawanawa tribe. And he's like, Chris, what? You're gonna come? You're like, in Brazil at the same time that of my wedding, you have to come. I basically was his only like guest that was like one of his friends, because none of his family in Peru could afford that. But, you know, I paid for me and Ariane to like make it there. So we stay with the Yawanawa tribe for like a few days. And that's me like working on my painting, and some of the locals kind of like seeing how I do my thing. And at the bottom, we're throwing up, not from Aya, but from Campbell frog. So as you may know or not, Campbell is this frog's skin secretion. Some people call it poison, that makes you purge violently for 45 minutes because it makes you so sick. Yet it, boosts your immune system and removes all these deep tissue toxins and even energetical toxins. So I try to do Campbell once a year, and I'd say it's the secret to my youth and power. But yeah, out of jokes, it has actually like made me stronger. Like basically, the more we detoxify, the better the body can function. And all these shamanic tribes have such great ways, difficult ways, but great ways to get all the crap out of us. Anyway, sorry for the puking picture. I know some people find it gross. Maybe I shouldn't tell you that. I'll tell you anyway. So basically, I had to purge so bad on this one. This is the only time I shat my pants. I puked so hard, but then I had so much shit to get out. I just fucking shat my pants right there. Luckily, I was in front of a river and I can jump in the river and clean myself. And my shaman was just laughing so much, and he was filming me. And he's very grateful for me because I'm a total skater dude, city guy. I'm not like your traditional tribal shamanic hippie, you know. I just throw myself in those situations because they resonate with me. But I'm that bridge that later on, when I share my YouTube videos of my trips, there I am puking and shitting my pants like a little baby, because I'm looking for my healing. I'm looking for my liberation and my health and my self-love. And it's a beautiful thing, you know. There's no shame in getting gross if it's about getting cleaned up. And I think, or I hope, all of you who are listening to this have been in a similar position. Anyways, this is the painting that I did during that purge in Brazil. Sadly, that was also a time when Spirit was telling me that I had to let go of Ariane, that I had to like continue the path by myself, that maybe I didn't need a woman to give me the love and validation that I needed. I had a lot of demons, so I had to deal with it myself, and I had to liberate her for her to continue her own path of self-becoming without me facilitating it to her so much. So at the bottom of this painting, it's me doing rapé, actually. Which is that tobacco snuff that you blow into your own nose, or somebody blows it into your own nose, which really clears my energy. It kind of puts me into this fire mode. So it's like I'm a light up candle with all these like chakruna style visions around me. But then you got all these, you know, demons that want to like fuck with me. Some good things too, but basically I'm just trying to clear my space for me to be free from exterior influences. Really, like a week after we get back to Montreal, Ariane packs her things and goes back to her life in Florida, and I fly out to Amsterdam, where I needed to paint a big mural-sized canvas for a museum out there in Amsterdam called a street art museum. And I took a part of that canvas. So if you see the lower L shape of this canvas here, and then you see the upper monster, I combined them into this giant mural. So I basically used part of that cool canvas that was very different from my style, because this was all about spray paint drips. So basically I did a bunch of shapes with spray paint and drips and just random shapes, and then I drew on it and then I shaded it. So it came totally different from my usual style, which is a little bit more like, you know, I draw it, it's a different kind of combination, and I liked it. So then I redid it with spray paint on that big canvas at that museum, and totally different flavor, but same code. And, you know, it's all about purging and cleaning and the interdimensional ceremonies I had with the Yawanawa, which are such a beautiful tribe. And then I went to Vienna. So I was teaching in Vienna at the Vienna Academy of Visionary Art. And there I got in a big depression. There's when it really hit me that my beautiful dear Ariane was not going to be part of my life anymore. And she was moving on and I had to move on. But I was having a really hard time because I loved her so much. But I knew that breaking up with her is what I really needed to do. And that was a time of shadow work. It was a time for me to dance with my own bullshit, my shadow, my fears, my insecurities, my pain, and give it a space. I had to paint it. And I was just so fucking pissed when I painted it because my communications long distance with Ariane don't go well. She's got a different style of communication than I do. I'm very good at communicating, at telling my stories and that's why I'm a successful artist, because I can convey a certain message to people and people can feel it and resonate and you know, and she's very different. She's very quiet and introspective and she goes into deep worlds that I can't even understand, but it causes me a lot of pain sometimes because I don't understand her and I don't feel understood myself. And this is how I feel, you know. And in this painting, I really wanted to give a place to that pain and let it purge too. Not only me purge, and sometimes wonder, can I purge this monster? Can I purge my pain, my insecurities, my bullshit, my etc.? Or should I just let it purge, you know, get it a little bit weaker, like deflate it and just get a little bit of all the fucking people who've hurt me in my life, let those liars out. That's why you got those little creatures with the long noses. Those are all the liars who've been injecting the wrong code in my being, you know, telling me lies of what the world's about who I am in contrast to that world, and just letting it go. So once a year, I offer a retreat, an ayahuasca, an art retreat in Tarapoto, Peru, with my shaman, Herbert Quinteros, who's in the middle of the picture there. And it's a beautiful thing. It's been growing and growing every year. It's like 8 days of doing ceremonies at night and then painting during the days and sharing and growing and healing. And I'm just so grateful that I got the situation. Last year, I even took my parents, who are here in this picture, the elderly couple in the middle. And it was just like so great to make myself as vulnerable as I get in a ayahuasca retreat right in front of my parents, who might have been part of the reason why I got pain to begin with, you know, not because they wanted to inflict that in me. It's just, that's how generations work. But these retreats are just pure magic. Our next one is in December. I hope it works out. We already have 15 people signed up, and it's so magical and I love it. And it's so good for me every time. And I hope it flows. But in the retreat that happened after that Vienna episode, I went back in there with my pain, and this is more purge art. This is more vomit art. And in this one, I'm still trying to let go of Ariane, my girlfriend at the time. And once again, letting the demon inside me purge its pain and its negativity and its anger at the frustration of why can't I get the love that I want, you know? And that's what I was crying so much just yesterday on the mushrooms. It's like, yo, man, I'm such a nice, cool guy with a big heart, and I got my life figured out, and I'm not ugly neither. Like, why can't I just get a really awesome girl to match me and just like live happily ever after? Or maybe that's another of the lies of the world. Maybe it's not about like happily ever after. Maybe it's about having experiences, learning from it, and then moving on to the next one. And those have moments of pain, and that's life, you know? You have moments of pain, you have moments of joy, and then you grow from it all. And this was a moment of pain and of letting go, which is such an important lesson that ayahuasca gives you. Let go of attachment. Just fucking be, flow with the experience. Just, you know, accept reality as it is. Stop fighting it. Sorry, I gotta drink some. Anyway, so going on with that year, I ended up being in LA. I was doing a mural for this couple in the valley, and they wanted me to paint their patio. So they actually had some psychedelics, and I usually did it. I only try to do it with shamanic people around me, but it's like, okay, I'll do some of your medicine with you so that the mural will come out more influenced by it. So I did a beautiful ceremony. It was really great. And then I painted this mural. And then I was staying there for another couple of days, and I kind of felt like doing it again. But on that one, it's not like it was a bad thing. It had really good moments, but they gave me different medicines. So basically, I think they gave me the chocolates with like first they started with some kind of African thing that I don't even remember its name, which was very beautiful in itself. And then after that, they gave me a chocolate mushroom and something else with ayahuasca. And all of those might be fine on their own, but when you mix them together, te cruzas, like we say in Spanish. When I asked my shamans, like, whoa, on that, at the end of that ceremony, both I couldn't puke, which I don't like it when I feel sick and I can't puke, but I saw so much negative monsters, and it didn't really scare me, but it was just pure negative, monstrous visions coming very aggressively into my eyes. And when I went to go to sleep that night, it just kept on coming and coming and coming. And when I asked my shaman Herbert, like, what happened, he told me that all the different medicines crossed my wires. So basically, each psychedelic wants to pull me to a different direction, and because none of them can fully win, it's just fucking me up in my brain a little bit and not actually doing something good. It's just kind of like it's like there's a big inner fight for who gets to rule over my consciousness, and it ends up being like this mess. And this is a painting I painted at that time. And this is another one of those paintings that are just a little bit of a subconscious reflection that I don't really know what I'm painting till I paint it. And then this came out that kind of expresses how I was feeling at that time of reconstruction and redefining who I was, especially at a point when I'd taken too many psychedelics or too much of a mix. Now, later that summer, I felt a lot better. Eventually, I learned to heal myself, and I even started dating a new girl who was a Leo, which is a sun sign, and I'm all about the sun. You know, I'm a sun worshiper. You know, being Peruvian, the Incas were all about using the sun as a image of God, and just the sun is life. You know, you see it in the sky shining. It's pure light, gives life to your skin and the plants and the planet. Like, how can you not love the sun? So I made a very intergalactic, vibrational, tribal, badass sun that's kind of like, you know, it both loves you, but it will also kick your ass when it needs to kick your ass. Kind of like the medicine, you know? It's like, it's not so gentle sometimes, as much as I would love it to be. But it loves you so much that sometimes it just has to like do it a little bit in an aggressive way in order to wake you up. Like, that's what's happening with humanity right now. 2020 is a total shamanic ceremony we're all going through, and it's kicking our ass, but it's kicking our ass for us to fucking awaken and become the potential we could be, or at least a step closer to we're supposed to be, because we've been like fucking swimming in our bullshit for too long. You know, we're here to be this beautiful humanity of light and love, and instead we're just fighting over bullshit and keeping people poor and keeping races you know, disempowered and destroying nature. And I don't have to list all the problems of the world. So this sounds like, come on, humanity, wake the fuck up. But that starts with you. That starts with me. We do it together. And, you know, all compassion and love in that process. Now, months went by. I actually got back with Ariane. I took her to India. That has nothing to do with psychedelics, so I'm skipping over that. But right after India, I flew straight back to Mexico, where I had to paint for a festival. And then right after that, this museum of tribal and psychedelic art near Mexico City in Irapuato invited me to paint for them. And the main guy who owned the museum was a shaman who had been training with the Seri tribe of the Sonoran Desert of Mexico, where the Bufo alvarius frog lives. So he had been training to be a shaman that shares Bufo with people. And he asked me if I wanted to do it. And me being a psychedelic person who does ayahuasca or like I do a lot of DMT through ayahuasca. So I was like, okay, yeah, I think I could do the bufo. It sounds intense, but I know how to surrender to ayahuasca. I think, and you're a shamanic person. It's all healing. It's all medicine. Let's do it. So there to the left, he's blowing some rapé in my nose to kind of clear me up. And then to the right, he's giving me the bufo frog smoke. And it was intense. It was very, 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 very intense for me. It was too intense for me. If I would have known how intense it would be, I might have not done it. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And basically, I smoked it. He said, look at the sun. The sun exploded. I exploded, and I ceased to be. And when I see the video, I'm just on the floor shaking and convulsing. It scares the hell out of me when I see that video. Just the look on my eyes when it first happens, it's like my eyes go white. Like, how do your eyes go white? It's like the soul left my body, and I've never seen my body just stand there soulless. It's kind of freaky. It brings flashbacks, and he did it all correctly with all the ceremonies. He cleared the space, but I don't think he closed my astral body so well. Later that day, we ended up in his museum, and I'm painting a painting based on the experience of that day that I had no idea how to express it. So I'm just kind of like trying my best to do something that resembles the infinitude of exploding into everythingness and being dissolved into nothingness. It's a very hard thing to paint. Meanwhile, I'm painting this, I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck happened? Did I die? I was so confused. And there was all these flashbacks. So basically, when I smoked it, his assistants just rang a ringing bell that went ding, and it went into infinity. And I kept on hearing that in my head. Like I was just kind of like stuck in infinity. And it was kind of freaky. My body was freaked out. My body was like, what the fuck, Chris? You killed me? Really, dude? You killed me. I'm your body. I've been carrying you all this life. And my ego was also like, what the fuck? You want to kill your ego? But I'm your buddy. And it was really hard. But it got a lot worse that night. So I went to sleep that night, or tried to go to sleep. And every time my body was about to fall asleep, I felt like the bufo dimension was coming to grab me and pull me in and make me fall into the precipice of everythingness, where I would be trapped in death forever. That was the feeling that my body was feeling. And I was trying to tell my mind, that's bullshit. I'm not going to die because I fall asleep. If anything, I should learn to allow myself to die. This is my challenge to, drop my fear. If I can drop my fear for death, my fears for other things will also drop. But my body resisted. Every time I was going to fall asleep, that fucking world was coming to get me, and I was about to fall off a precipice, and my body would be like, no. At the same time, I got a little bit of sleep apnea where sometimes I forget to breathe. But in general, my body can be all like, okay, you got to breathe, But if I'm deep into the psychedelic world, if I'm truly fall into there, maybe I forget to breathe, and all of a sudden Chris Dyer dies, and that's not good for the museum, that's not good for the shaman, that's not good for my girlfriend and my family. Oh, why? Because I got too high one day, or I don't know what. So 15 times I tried to sleep that night, and I just couldn't fall asleep. So I just turned on the light and kept painting on a painting I was working on. And the next day, the guy comes, is like, dude, you should have warned me that was a possibility. He's like, oh yeah, that happens rarely, but I guess I should have told you that you could gotten into some kind of panic attack situations. Yeah, that would have been helpful. We ended up going to Guanajuato that day. He had to do some ceremonies on some people, and I was just so tired. I was like, fuck, I'm gonna fall asleep. But I felt if I fell asleep, Freddy Krueger it was like a Freddy Krueger situation where if I fell asleep, the buffo was gonna get me and he was gonna kill me. So it was I was so tired and weak and afraid, and all my negativity had floated up onto me. It's almost like all the dirt had brought up, all the fears of my whole life were right there in my body and in my mind. And I was like, fuck, I fucked up. I did a drug that I shouldn't have done. and my girlfriend's going to leave me, and I'm going to lose all my power because people are going to see how afraid I am. And I was really like hard on myself. So on the way back to the museum, he has to stop at the house of these artists, and then the artist had heard that Chris Dyer was in the car. He's like, oh, I want to say hi to Chris Dyer. So they come down, and she looks into the window like, hola, Chris Dyer, ¿qué tal? And I look up, it's like, hey, what's up? And she's like, whoa, dude, what's up with you? You look spooked. And I'm like, I'm fucking spooked, yo. And she's like, okay, come upstairs. We're going to fix you. So those artists also have trained with shamans, different shamans than my friend Fernando in Mexico. And I'm not trying to say that Fernando's a bad shaman. He's a good shaman, but he still has a lot to learn. And I'm a very sensitive person, and he might have not encountered a person with my kind of sensitivity before. And maybe I shouldn't have, I don't know, maybe there could have been other ways to make sure that I wasn't in psychological danger. Once again, I told you before, I got those issues with my family lineage and schizophrenia and whatnot. So I could fall on any side if I push my limits too much. So we always got to be super careful and do these things in a responsible Maps Canada way. So these artists did a ceremony around me, just rattles and smoke. But in that ceremony, it was a guy and a girl. So the girl was pushing my heart, being like, you know, Ave Maria, and just like putting all these fucking like chants into my heart, being like, we're gonna heal you, we're gonna pass on the good vibes. Meanwhile, he was on my back going like, and then going outside and throwing up, and then going back to my back and going like he was sucking my negativity with a straw, going out and throwing it up. It was like really trippy and beautiful. No psychedelics, but after that, all the fear had left my body, and I felt so peace, but also the power of the interdimensional booth. Was like I saw the world with brand new eyes, and I was listening to music with brand new ears, and I was like, oh my God, the good thing that I wanted Bufo to give me, I could accept it all aside because the negativity had left my body and they had closed my astral body, you know, good enough. Now, the interesting thing about Bufo, it's not like you do it, last 10 minutes, and then you're back to normal. The thing is that it visits you at night. Like that night I couldn't sleep was because I wanted to interact with me, but I couldn't even, I was afraid of its intensity. It's a different kind of alien than ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is like female. And she's strong, but she's also gentle and respectful. Bufo seems like it's male, or a male kind of alien. And it's a little bit higher, though I've gone to that same place with ayahuasca, but she took me with steps, you know, like little by little. Bufo just takes you to the top right away, and it's so shocking to the system that's kind of aggressive. At the same time, Bufo is animal medicine. I'm a vegetarian since the late 90s, and I work with ayahuasca, which is a plant medicine. So Bufo, being an animal medicine, might be totally alien for my personal body or system. This is not a scientific thing, but it's definitely some kind of reflection from the way I reacted. Anyways, once I befriended Bufo, I was able to quote unquote fall asleep, though it was always like an all night long lucid dream where I'm interacting with beings, or many beings, as I lay in my bed, and they're just fucking working me. They're just putting feelings into me that I've never experienced before, neither good nor bad, just weird and alien, and I'm just like totally confused, but I'm letting them do their things. And this story goes on, but there was like mornings where like I would be in like nights where like all night long I'm in ecstatic bliss, and this is like days after the Bufo, but I'm just like fucking in bliss, like, oh my God, I'm so happy, and I love my life, and I love my enemies. And I wake up and I walk around my apartment, and I'm like, wow, this is fucking amazing, and it's the most sunny day, and it's just like, I'm so happy I'm alive. So the Bufo was something else. I don't think I can do it anymore out of respect for my shell, but I'm happy what I learned from it, and definitely a chance for very radical healing, but have tons of respect from it, and definitely do it in a very safe setting. This painting, so basically I did the Bufo, and then 2 weeks later, because my life is crazy like that, I was in Florida, and my shaman from Peru was doing some ceremonies, And I was like, dude, I'm still very open from the bufo. I don't know if I can do ayahuasca, but I was there and I know there were ceremonies. So I just kind of like joined the circle, and he started by giving me a little bit. And then for the second one, he gave me a little bit more. And I got really galactic on that ceremony. I was just so open already that I went to deep galactic visions. And this is one of the creatures that came out through it. I call him Bri 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 Bri. Because that was the song that Herbert was singing at the time. I was all about like joy, watery, rainbow. Manantial, manantial, qué bonito manantial. Bri, 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 bri. If you could imagine this guy having movement, kind of like what I showed, that's what I kind of seen. It's always really hard to bring back something from the other world, especially the next morning where I'm just trying to like get back into physicality. But I both painted it as a mural like a week later in Jacksonville, Florida, and then the month after as a live painting in North Carolina. Yes, I'm always working. I'm always going around painting for everybody. Now this painting I did later that year. Don't worry, guys. I'm getting. I know. This is a long speech, but hopefully it's somewhat entertaining. I'm getting to the end of it. I'm on my last slide. This painting is called Integration. So after all the bufo, after India, after that intense ayahuasca ceremonies, I gave myself a whole year before I did psychedelics again, all the way to the end of the year, which was like last December. And this is one of the paintings I did. It's called Integration. It's trying to just kind of like bring out all that magic that's been happening through me into paintings, There's a lot going through me, and art's my way to get it out. It's my way of expressing myself and communicating. Now, this is a computer digital composition made from different parts of different paintings, but it's a different kind of way for me to create new trippy creatures. Like, I'm all about the trippy creatures. I don't know, I like entities or feeling like an entity and expressing through that. I'm not so much about like landscapes or what's out there, but I would hope that when you watch a painting like this, a little bit from the other dimension comes through and says like, yes, we're here, we're with you. And we might look alien and somewhat scary, but we're here to help with your healing. We care about you humans. I know, a little bit alien and strange, and you don't understand the dimension we are living in, but we want to heal you, because if you are healed as individuals, then as a collective, you have a better chance. So let's keep on doing our work. This whole like psychedelics fun is not like this trippy thing to like, be all like, like my college days. And I'm sure I don't even have to tell that to you guys. And obviously we're doing this through MAPS, which is a very healing and responsible institution. But this is what I'm trying to, like, when I put this on my Instagram, most kids are just like, well, it's so trippy, dude. And and it is trippy, of course, but it's also kind of like the other dimension being like, humans, awake now. It's 2020. We got this. And this is a painting I did this year. So this is a painting of my dear shaman Herbert. I painted it earlier this year to kind of like express my love for him, but it's also for a CD cover that's coming for a record that he's putting out soon. And I love him tons. It looks a lot better in person, especially since it's bigger and more vibrant and everything. But once again, it's all got the vibration of the other dimension to kind of like, bring a little bit of that magic. And this is the end of my speech. I guess, if I had to say some final words is we all just want to be happy. We just want to be happy. It's not that complicated, like we're always thinking like, oh, why are we here on life? And what's all this thing? And what am I supposed to do? I think we just want to be happy, and happiness is just being in the moment and just, forgiving yourself for any bad thing you've done and accepting yourself in all your imperfections. Even if you got a bunch of green shit all over your head, it doesn't really matter. We're not perfect. We just are what we are, and just allow ourselves to be, you don't have to be anything other than who you are. And that's what I'm trying to do in my journey. And that's what I'm trying to express through my art. And I'm grateful that people receive my medicine. That's what my art is, my psychedelic for me to express and to hit other people, for them to reflect on themselves like mirrors, to see themselves in me through my soul expression. And I do it in service for myself, for yourself, and may we all be liberated, and may we all find happiness. So yeah, that's all I got to say, folks. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm now ready for your very interesting questions. There I am. All right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Chris. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for being real with us and sharing your story and how that reflects in your art. That's so amazing to hear, because, psychedelics all isn't just rainbows and wonderfulness. There's, you're going to those deep, dark places and pulling out that stuff that's stuck deep in the subconscious mind, that tape player that sometimes talk therapy really doesn't help in getting out. But combined with these medicines is super important in healing people. And that's what we're doing at MAPS. So thanks so much for sharing that. So
yeah, no
are you okay for a few questions here?
Anything you want. I'm here to serve you.
Awesome. So I'm just going to go to the top few questions on Crowdcast here. This one is about, well, I'll just read it out for you here. So
hey,
if time...
Shannon.
Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay, awesome.
How did the poll go? Who won?
Oh,
really?
Let's go to the poll before we do that. Let's see.
You guys do the poll? You got to do the poll. You got to wear the ribbon.
First question, which psychedelic has healed you the most? With number 1, 12 votes, we have mushrooms. Number 2, MDMA. 3 is 4 votes with LSD. And then we have ayahuasca is next. And then DMT, ketamine, and mescaline in trailing behind there, but still with 1 vote. Which psychedelic has caused the most harm? Interesting. 3 votes for cannabis in the number 1 position. Number 2 position is tied with 2 votes each, LSD, MDMA, ketamine, and then 1 vote for mushrooms. Oh, we just got another vote for cannabis there. Wow. And there's another question. Have you had a similar experience with cannabis in terms of paranoia? And 9 votes for yes, 2 votes for no, 10 votes for yes. 11 votes for yes.
Off the races, but and the winner of best mushroom, best psychedelic of the year is mushroom. Congratulations, mushroom! You worked so hard, and now you've been crowned as the king of the polls. Is that the first time you did a poll? That was fun.
That was probably the biggest poll we've done. Yeah, that was fun. Thanks for manifesting that.
Yeah, no problem.
There's so many questions here, but let's just do the top one. So if time is dimensional perception of consciousness, would that mean that time dilation of psychedelics is a part of time travel?
If time is a dimensional perception of consciousness, oh God, this is too smart for me. Would that mean time dilation of psychedelics is a part of time travel? I don't know what that means. I'm sorry, I can't answer that. As I told you, I'm not very scientific. But I'd say from my personal belief, we are in a dimension that has time and space. I think that's kind of clear. But there's other realms where that's not a factor, and maybe through psychedelics we can access that. And so I don't know what time dilation means, or maybe growth. I don't know, but everything's relative in the end. But I'm really not the person to answer that. I only got, perceptions.
Perception is everything. Hey, they actually say that scientifically they've discovered 11 dimensions, and there's over 84 different dimensions apparently. But I guess that depends on who you ask, right?
Have you seen the show Initiation on Gaia with Matteo De Stefano?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Okay, guys, watch Initiation on Gaia. If you don't have Gaia, find a friend who has a password, and then you watch Gaia Initiation. It breaks up all the dimensions, starting by oneness, God dimension, and then it's really trippy and really mind expanding. You have to watch it over and over again just to even understand it. But that will be a nice scientific answer to what all of this and way beyond is all about.
Maybe someone from our team can find the link and put it in the chat there.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well,
which color has healed you the most?
Yellow. It's my favorite color. It's like, it's like the sun. It's like light. It's just happiness. And it's my favorite color for sure. Yeah.
If you didn't have your art as a means to communicate your experience and relationship with psychedelics, how else do you think you would be expressing yourself?
If I didn't have art, I would do music. I would, I've never really learned how to play instruments so well. But if I couldn't do art for some reason, music would be the next way to express vibration, to bring the other dimension, because you definitely hear sounds, especially when it's intense. Whoa, and even the sounds of nature and around just became so intense sometimes. I need to express. Maybe I would become a poet. I know, any way that helps me get the energy out, or videos or collages or any way possible. I just need to express. It's like breathing to me.
Awesome. We'll do one last question here. What is psychedelica to you? This is from Jordan.
Oh, Psychedelica is another show on Gaia TV. And it's done by my friend Ben Stewart. And it's a really cool show that breaks down different psychedelics by episode. It's really cool. Once again, I feel like I'm a spokesperson for Gaia TV right now. But it's a really well done show. Gaia likes to do equality. And the cool thing about it is also that they use my art to illustrate a lot of the episodes. Now, the funny part is I gave all these images to Ben Stewart of my art and me doing ayahuasca. And he gave it to his editor. And something that escaped his thing is they used a picture of me doing ayahuasca in an episode where they're talking about gringos going to Peru and getting tricked by brujos, and I'm like, no, don't use me as a illustrative example to that. I think Ted is saying, oh, I mean psychedelia as a psychedelic art. Oops, I had a nice story to it. What is psychedelic art? I guess the art that gets expressed through the psychedelic experience. That doesn't necessarily have to come from using psychedelics, though psychedelics is the doorway to the psychedelic world. But I've been doing psychedelic art since I was a kid, before even doing psychedelics. So I think there's an understanding for us there. Say Salvador Dali, they didn't do drugs, and he did very psychedelic art. So we don't need psychedelics to realize how we're interdimensional beings, but it certainly does help.
Can I squeeze one more question in here?
You can ask questions all day long. I'm here for you.
Awesome. So this one is, has anyone ever reached out to you to share how your artwork has changed their perceptions of psychedelics or even the war on drugs?
Yeah, well, people do tell me all the time that my art helps them understand themselves a little bit and the reflection of how I see it, especially when I explain my art. They're like, oh, I never saw it that way. Thank you so much for helping me understand myself in contrast. As do the war on drugs, I don't really talk too much about politics and drugs, because for me it's so stupid that humans would make rules to stop people from doing medicines, yet they're pushing cigarettes and alcohol and all these other bad drugs that are killing people all the time. Meanwhile, ayahuasca is illegal. Obviously you don't want people selling ayahuasca on a street corner. There has to be some kind of regulation that a proper shaman who's been training for many years is the one who provides it in a proper ceremonial circle. But to send people to jail for trying to heal themselves and improve their consciousness, that makes no sense. But I don't really talk about it because it's just I think it's kind of clear it's stupid. So thank you, Maps Canada, for being the ones to voice that there's this, that shit's stupid.
Well, it's a big arena out there, and I remember I was looking at one of the therapist that's doing the eating disorder study, and she says, you know, we're completely not in our realm here. This isn't our arena. You know, these medicines have been used for thousands and thousands of years, and we're just helping to make them legal so that people can heal from them, because they do work to heal. So they were talking about how it's important to keep the traditions alive and the ceremony alive and the sacredness in it. So I don't know if you have any comments on that, like if you want to comment on how important that is.
I think it's super crucial to keep the experts of the subject matter, the shamans, the tribes, the people who done the Icaros and songs for thousands of years, who know the code, who are experts in the terrain, have been passing it on, especially the shamans who've been training for decades to be of service. We got to empower these guys, and we really need them. Right now, there's situations in the Amazon where a lot of shamanic elders are suffering because of the COVID, and people are not really paying attention or helping them out. Like, sadly, for example, it's an issue of Peru or an issue of Brazil. You know, but if you want to help, you know, the Shipibo tribe that's struggling with COVID, because they're in very remote, like, I don't give much importance to COVID. I don't think it's a big deal, but definitely it's also not nothing neither. And if it gets to a tribe that's in middle of nowhere and there's no way to help them, that's a situation. So they need help. And so if you guys feel like helping these elders or tribes that are suffering through the situation, or even just, you know, the tribes in Brazil with their fucking stupid ass president who wants to burn all the Amazon to have more grazing land for cows. Whatever you can, you know, Amazon watch, or, you know, like, yes, there's a lot of issues in the world, but let's not forget the Amazon. And this is where all these elders are. And we cannot lose that wisdom, and we cannot lose that medicine. We need it for our healing. You know, if we lose the medicine and the wisdom, our chances for healing and waking up and changing all these problems of the world are a lot harder. So thanks to MAPS once again for their battle and making these medicines an okay situation for us to heal. And it's helped me so much in my life. And I'm just like a normal city dude. I'm nothing special, just a normal, you know, skater kid that paints cool, and I'm happy to serve my experiences with humanity. But I could, you know, I'm a lot more empowered by working with these amazing shamanic tribes and elders and medicines.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And that's super important. I think both Dennis McKenna and Paul Stamets, when they were on the show here, they said that, you know, when the shaman dies, the knowledge and wisdom die along with them. So it's super important that we're aware of that, and that we try to keep these people safe and the medicine safe as well. So we are almost at 8 minutes to the hour here. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us on the webinar. And it's been super fun to have you here today and hear all your stories, and just have a real person be real and share all of that with us. So we appreciate it. Thank you so much. Do you have any final words that you want to say? I know you already gave some final, but if you have anything else you want to add in before we end here.
Much love to all of you guys. Thanks for tuning in today. You know, thank you, Maps. Thank you all you guys who like backed up this webinar. You know, like it's just really cool with so much cool things happening on the internet. A lot of them free today. That's cool that you pitched in. You know, to hear some people say some cool stuff and to really back up an organization that wants to help heal the world through the use of psychedelics. So thank you for you know, helping us out. Thank you for helping the battle. All these little things add up, and don't lose the faith. You know, I know the world looks kind of dark sometimes, but the light is stronger than the darkness. And we're not even trying to kill the darkness. The darkness has its role, but we can't let the darkness kill the light. We need the light to like balance out the darkness so we can see ourselves enough and see our three-dimensionality and shadows and learn who we are, and then just be happy. Hopefully, or at least half the time. If we're gonna be happy half the time, beautiful.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Chris. And hopefully we can see you again sometime on another webinar series. So
yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
So in closing, I'd like to take this time to thank all of those that have helped make this webinar series possible. Special thanks to our guest today, Chris Dyer. So amazing to have you with us. Thank you to the Maps Canada volunteers who are assisting with this event. And there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, so we really appreciate all of that work that you guys are doing. Thank you to our amazing sponsors as well. And if you aren't aware, we have some amazing perks for purchasing the whole series. For example, a 3-month membership to Conscious Living Network, 15% off the 2020 Spirit Plant Medicine Conference, 20% off hospital discount on all ketamine infusion treatments in every one of their clinics with the Ketamine Wellness Center, 15% off any item with the Flying Sage, a free Yoga Nidra course with 50% off all other courses with Insight Foundation, 50% off Navigating Psychedelics course with Psychedelics Today, 20% off rental and 50% off owning the award-winning documentary Dose, 50% off first individual or couples counseling session with Nested Heart Counseling, 15% off discount code for microdosing courses with the Third Wave, 20% off with Van LaFan for stickers, and 20% off tea purchases with Unity Herbals. So a full package of perks there for everyone just for purchasing the whole webinar series. And very importantly, thank you to all of you for tuning in, for being here, for supporting this series, supporting the speakers, and supporting this important research. As you know, the funds from this webinar series go towards that research. So up and coming, our next episode will be on July 28th with Duncan Trussell. Make sure and submit your questions in advance, and our full lineup can be viewed on the webpage at mapscanada.org/webinar. We have 5 episodes remaining, and if you haven't purchased the series and would like to, you're able to until the end of August, as all videos are recorded. You can simply watch them anytime you like. So thank you again for attending, and we look forward to seeing you all on the next episode.